Well, the market recovered most of yesterday's drop. Nobody can explain apparently what happened yesterday, but we haven't asked Good News Thursday Bradford Ferguson of Rebellion Air yet. So, Brad, do you have the answer to yesterday's flop?
Absolutely not. I wish I knew, and I think this pressure to explain every move is it's too much. Yeah. We want to have a reason for everything, and it I think the market is a natural system, and it kind of like grows like a tree or a weed, and sometimes a fire comes through and takes values down, and then it grows back again.
Yeah, there was certainly an awful lot of people yesterday talking about that the fear greed calculus had gone all the way into super greed. So I thought maybe there was just a kind of a general sense of I, there's an underlying philosophy that I've used for years and years and years that some things just get out too far. And we'll talk about the bonds in a minute, which I think that's the
We
case.
Can we share the CNN index here?
Just a second. I'm sure I can. Let me get the share going here. Oh, I know I have to do this first.
Or I can share it for you. Yeah.
No, I have to give you.
Yeah, so technically we probably did enter into the extreme greed on the CNN fear
All right, go
greed
ahead and share. Go ahead and share.
index. And it's been a pretty good indicator as far as like when to take profits. So maybe it's been a good run, but it likely hit the extreme greed. So it says the previous close was 71, so I'm guessing maybe it didn't. It's kind of could be fascinating to look at what the different indicators are. Safe haven demand is like keeping it down from like being as extreme of a reading, and so is market volatility.
Yeah. So, but extreme greed, it could have triggered something. We know that there's all this automatic trading, so it could have been partially the fact that people got into some automatic trading that might have affected things. I mean, there were so many reasons. You may have heard that I thought it was the Houthis.
The Goonies.
The Houthis. You know, the messing up the Red Sea and talking about invading.
Oh, the Houthis, yeah, and the
Yeah.
shipping, yeah. Yeah, that still hasn't been resolved yet. So we'll see what U.S. government has to say about things, whether they're gonna get the U.S. Navy involved.
Well, actually, the entire European, not only the U.S. but Canadian, I forget how many different countries are involved, are all going to the Red Sea to make sure that that shipping lane is safe. And so that's, but then they announced yesterday that they were going to help Hamas. They were going to come to the Gaza and help Hamas, and I'm trying to figure out how they're going to get there. so, it's like across Saudi Arabia. Maybe they're going to take their ships. I don't know how they're going to, but anyway, yeah. So I was at first I thought, there's always these knee-jerk reactions, right? You never know when a knee-jerk reaction can just throw the market into a tizzy. And then an hour or two later, everybody goes, "Oh no, that wasn't anything at all." But I don't think that was it. I have tried my hardest to find out what it was, Bradford, and I have pretty much given up. Although there's plenty of people that will give you hints.
Well, about an hour, Elon and Kathy Wood are going to talk. When was that announced? That wasn't yesterday morning, was it?
That would have been the item. It killed everything. It didn't just kill Tesla. It drove every equity down. Yeah, that's a good one. Yes. By the way, speaking of Kathy and Elon speaking, did you send in a question?
I did not. I didn't
Oh.
know I could.
Yeah.
I generally haven't had the best luck with that.
So if you were able to ask a question, does one come to mind off the top of your head?
For Elon and Kathy Wood?
Well, it would be for Kathy to ask Elon. Theoretically, she's interviewing him.
I think like if she could ask him about his thoughts about her valuation on Tesla in a few years, like what he thinks.
Okay, there you
Like if she got specific and what do you think about Tesla at 2,500 a share or whatever it is?
go. Her
Uh,
number, her numbers, yeah.
I think I'd be curious to see what Elon says to that, just for the popcorn value.
We might have to wait for that one though. With that, can he answer that question in the blackout? Because we're already in the blackout period.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure he can do that one.
There is some good news I do want to share.
Oh, go for it.
I'll lay out a couple items. So I was invited to configure for Cybertruck.
Oh,
Um,
yay.
I've
Woo!
done that. I want to talk about Tesla marketing team. I think there's some really good news with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are a couple of them.
Well, talk to us about your Cybertruck. You got
Yeah,
it.
so I got a email. This was 2 days ago to configure for a foundation series for Cybertruck. And so I went to the website, and essentially it's like $20,000 more than what they said on the Cybertruck delivery day. So it's like 100,000 for an all-wheel drive and
Right,
120,000 for the Cyber Beast.
right.
And the all-wheel drive can be delivered January to March.
Okay,
But if you want the Cyber Beast, you got to wait longer. I think
right.
it's second half of next year. So because of my FOMO wanting to get the Cybertruck earlier, I downgraded to the all-wheel drive version of it. Also had the ability to place a non-refundable deposit on the range extender.
Oh,
You get 340 miles of range with
right.
the regular all-wheel drive. If you're driving at 80 miles an hour, though, that might get you about 220 miles, something like that. Which isn't bad, but there's certain drives we do where a little
Sure.
extra range would be of help. I don't think it'd be terrible to have a little extra mass in case we got in an accident. You want to be the heavier vehicle in that case. Um, and I'm not sure what we want to do as far as road tripping. That may change. So it's a $500 deposit. It's $16,000 if
Yeah, yeah.
I end up getting it. And what they say they'll do is they'll put it in toward the end of 2024.
I see.
So if I think twice about it, I could just give up the $500 too.
Right.
So I was just giving myself the option of getting that range extender.
Sure.
Really excited about it, and I
Yeah.
really plan to show it off in my area, in high traffic areas, and let the Tesla Owners Club of Indiana enjoy it. I may head up to Michigan too. I'm in Indiana.
Okay.
Um, I'd be surprised if I'd be the only person in Indiana. Um, but it's possible. I haven't heard of anyone else in Indiana being invited, but maybe it's happened.
Well, probably
Um,
at least for miles around. So,
yeah.
yes, and your comment in terms of this marketing department that's being put together, this video, apparently a video production department being put together. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Now, are you
So
sending you have some connections, right? You're gonna send my name in, right? I mean, I should be the guy to run that
should
department.
I guess maybe, yeah. I think, yeah, a lot of small business owners, which you were a business owner. I don't know how small you were, but have some marketing chops. You've had to, sell for your business, all that. They did, they did invite, they had some kind of job position, just I think for the overall role.
Yes.
And that was over a month ago. And now we see all these listings for various roles that would be within that. So I'm guessing maybe whoever they hired got some kind of budget and,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
able to do more. Maybe it could be within an existing effort they have. Certainly before all this, we've seen a market increase in videos from
Yes.
Tesla short little videos. They had a video with the drone at the Germany factory, which I'm guessing Jeff Lutz talked about. Basically the drone flies around and it surveys their inventory levels and does over 10,000 scans a day, something like that. But there's all these different drones from all these, videos from all these different parts of Tesla. And they're adding all these Twitter accounts too. I think this is a big positive as far as, getting more awareness out about Tesla, especially now where the media seems to be attacking or putting out more and more false narratives every day. Like it's getting worse. Like the recall was ridiculous. It was a
Crazy
over the air update, but it allowed, and maybe this is why NHTSA did it. It allowed them to say they were recalling
right.
every Tesla from 2012 to 2022. And so like, if you don't know anything else, you're like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with Tesla. They're recalling all their vehicles in the US. So
maybe the
Tesla is
video,
getting the tools to fight back and grow awareness. And I'm going to see what I can do, for my part. If I am lucky enough to get one of the first ones in Indiana, I'm going to parade it around all over the place. And I'm probably going to bring like little, brochure is a strong word. It, it makes it sound like I'm a sales guy leaving my brochure at the desk or whatever. But I'm going to get like printouts for like what it's like to charge and do road trips in a Tesla. And so if people come up and are asking questions, I can give them something to take with them.
that'll be amazing. So
What do you think about this huge increase in the marketing and
well,
or advertising effort?
so to begin with, I have an entire section in the Elon Musk mission. There's a big, huge section of, I think it was 22 marketing levers that I thought they should pull. My number one thing that I've done in life, by the way, Bradford, is marketing. That's what I identify as a sales and marketing guy. That's what I do. And I've done, I don't know, something on the order of 6,000 YouTube videos for myself and for clients, because I've had 400 marketing clients over the last 16 years, and I did about 4,000 for them. Then there's another 700 on this channel alone that I've done for the, for the whole Tesla and Elon Musk thing. And then I've done thousands before that for some of my companies, especially my manufacturing company. So I love marketing.
Yeah.
And I recommended specifically about 4 or 5 months ago, I said, if you don't do anything else, you could produce seriously with a small group like the one they're talking about, 7, 8 people, they can produce 3 or 4 professional videos a day. A day. Really nice videos a day. I do 3 a day. They're not the kind of level that they're going to do, but I do 3 a day, one guy.
Yeah.
So they could really go crazy.
Yeah. And, what the crazy thought happened to me is there's such this community around Tesla producing all this content. And now like Tesla's own team might even be able to run laps around nearly the whole Tesla community team on YouTube of all the, the various fans and all the big channels. I'm really excited to see what they put out. And I was also excited to hear what Elon said about their approach was that, they were, starting out small and testing things out and scaling things. Whenever you do internet marketing, you can't just like make $1 million a week budget. You got to try different things at a small level, measure them. You want to see, okay, how many dollars are we putting in versus what we're getting out? And then you can pick and choose, which ones you add budget to. So, maybe you have something where it's $150 a week and it does really well versus this other version of it. And then you double the one that's working and you just cut out the one that's not. And then you might run some tests on the one that's working and run some little wrinkles and see how those do. But you can't like suddenly take a budget that's $150 a week for a Google ad or whatever and 10x it. You would want to, like, maybe the most aggressive you would get would be to double it every week.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on their approach? Because I think they were trying like 300 different ads
Yeah.
on Google. So like they're
Yes.
testing out a lot of stuff, which is great. That's what we
No,
want.
so what they're doing makes total sense. Now, do I think that they could also at the same time be putting an ad on Monday Night Football? Sure, I do. But in the meantime, what they're doing is exactly, especially for somebody who thinks in first principles, when you put an ad up on the Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football or whatever, you don't get an exact one-for-one correlation. Your ability to monitor the results is not nearly as clean as it is when you're doing pay-per-click. When you're doing pay-per-click on Google, you know exactly how many people are looking at it, whether they click through to the website or whatever it is that you have them doing. You know exactly what that cost per click was. You know exactly, then you can monitor at that end, what did they do on the website? When they got to the website, did they go to the order page? When they got to the order page, did they place an order? I mean, everything is measurable. So it makes total sense that this is something that Elon would love because 100% measurable. YouTube video, same thing. If you're putting YouTube ads, front running or in the middle of videos that are out there, you can pick your demographic. You can decide who it is you want to advertise to. You can do A/B testing. And then, as you pointed out, once you've done A/B testing on some kind of a video and it's working okay, you can just make little slight changes in that video that, at the beginning to see if people stay longer. I mean, it's just amazing what he can do with the kind of staffing that they've put together. It should be extremely successful. And my guess is the other guys ain't doing it that way.
Yeah. And another reason why it should be successful is they haven't been advertising.
Right.
And even though Tesla is controversial in some ways, they build up a lot of goodwill.
Yeah.
In like rebellionaire.com as an example, we had the mega pack video and I did a short 40-second bit about Rebellionaire on that. And I got, 40 inquiries from that, actually 20, but I didn't have the website up for the first 12 hours. So it would have been 40. And it's like, that was something I didn't pay for, but I had to like inconvenience people in the middle of my video to do that. And that showed me there's some low hanging fruit because I had, been giving value on Twitter and YouTube for so many years. And I think Tesla is going to have this low hanging fruit benefit, and they'll figure out over time, what's going to work as long as they measure things well and keep things at a good scale, all that. You can measure like, you mentioned Monday Night Football. You could measure web traffic after that. But it can't, like there might be people that don't go to the website that night, but maybe they go later on in the week when they're talking about at work or on break, or maybe it planted a seed where there was no activity, but then a couple months down the road, you get some activity. That's where it can get harder to measure, but you can find out, dollars in, are we getting immediate results or not? And I think that's exciting. There was one time I did like 5,000, 6,000 in ads on YouTube videos. I did these short videos as about financial planning, investment, pretty generic. And I would run ads to them and I would do it to local zip codes. And like my barber mentioned it to me that he saw it. And I was like, oh, great. But I didn't get any business from it. And then a month and a half after I stopped the ads, we had someone come to our business and they were like, well, I've seen your videos on YouTube. And they end up becoming a client, and that's been a a really good, well more than paid for the ads.
There you go.
So
So,
like sometimes you don't know, but like sometimes you can measure things right away and go from there. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to make a big difference.
so have you got your, have you started thinking about, you must have obviously started thinking about what your opinions about 2024? I mean, like, for instance, do you have a Cybertruck number for 2024?
A Cybertruck
An
number?
expectation of units
Yeah,
shipped?
Elon said our expectations pretty low. I think he said something like 125,000 on the earnings call.
120, 125,000.
I don't
Not,
know if it's capacity or units.
no, yeah, he said 250 by the middle of 25. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so it's things are slow. We're seeing this week it's starting to pick up a bit at Giga Texas, so the numbers are starting to increase, but it's still not huge. I wouldn't be surprised by 100,000 this year. It sounds like the ramp's going to start in earnest in January. We'll see if that's true. You think about the Model 3 rollout in Shanghai, they did 145,000 in that first year.
Right.
When they rolled out the Y in Shanghai, I think they did even more in the first year.
Yeah.
You do have new processes with Cybertruck, so maybe it's a little slower. You have a different supply chain, so maybe it's a little lower than 150,000. So I don't think that's unreasonable. I gotta think though that the Cybertruck line in one line by itself can do more than 250,000. Like once they're fully
I agree with you.
once
Yes.
they're fully ramped, I gotta think it's at least 300,000, if not 350.
Right. Yeah, probably maybe even more than that. Going for 4 shifts, I think probably even more than that.
You don't have to wait for paint to dry
Oh,
and
no, no.
uncertain timing around that. I wonder about some of the machines. So they had these fancy machines. We saw Sandy
Right.
with Lars Moravi
Yes.
going around the factory and these fancy machines doing the cutouts. As long as the throughput on those machines is fine, it should be okay.
Yeah, I think your number is a solid number. Most people are estimating between 75 and 100,000. So what have you thought about the Optimus number? What you think? This is the big debate now on my channel. Will they actually start renting any Optimus to third parties? Will there be 100,000? Will there be 10,000? Will they only be in plant, et cetera, et cetera? Any brief thoughts on where you think Optimus will be in 2024?
So I think we have for I don't know if it's 2024 or 2025, but I think toward the end of the year they'll have 5,000 doing useful work.
In the factory.
Or maybe that bleeds into 2025, but I think it's sooner rather than later. So I'm with you and Scott Walter and others. And I think Tesla could employ, I know it's a weird word, but employ 50,000 before they would need to sell or lease to anyone. When you add outside customers, then you need to add documentation, you need to add training of other employees. You need to add training where the processes for those other factories are different.
Sure.
So it slows you way down. So I don't think Tesla is gonna let these get out there until they need to, and I think they'll get a huge value employing them in factories where it's hard for them to retain workers. So the jobs that are boring, repetitive, and stressful on the body. We won't call it dangerous, but we call it stressful. Yeah. So I'm optimistic. I love the fingertip thing that we see, the fingertip
Yeah.
sensors. That tells me it's going to have a strong dexterity to it and precision. Um, so I'm really excited about Optimus.
Yeah, more immediately, there doesn't seem to be a lot of discussion, a lot of argument about how many we're going to ship in the fourth quarter. It's in a very narrow window because I think people were starting to believe Troy. I don't know, but maybe that's it. But I think there's plenty of discussion right now around margins. So do you have a margin percentage that you've got some hopium for, or that you or do you analyze it in detail, or you are just a thought of what you think margins will be in the fourth quarter? Automotive margins?
I don't think we've penciled it out yet, but my thought about it is you have a full quarter of Model 3 coming out of Shanghai, the Model 3 Highland at higher prices. I believe the prices were 12% higher in China and maybe similar in Europe. So, and then the quarter before that, there was at least 2 weeks of downtime and at lower prices. So, with those higher prices, they're saying that the Model 3 Highland was less expensive to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're getting higher prices, lower cost. I'm not sure if the people that are looking at it now are fully modeling in that change.
I think so.
Because I think that's meaningful. That's a lot of Model 3s.
Yeah. And we're further along on the ramp on the Y, and we've had battery prices coming down. I'm pretty optimistic that the margins are going to be quite a surprise, but that's kind of my style. It's probably what I'm known for.
Yeah.
So
I do have some other news for you.
well, go ahead, do it.
We did a fun video with Jordan Giesecke of Limiting Factor on Saturday.
Yeah.
There was an industry presentation of a lawyer who is really big on energy side. And they said that Tesla is, and this is public, that Tesla is circulating a legal opinion that Megapack qualifies for 95% domestic content, where they're saying, for the purposes of the Inflation Reduction Act, it's 95% domestic content. So we're wondering how the heck that works, because if they're getting the batteries from CATL, those would not, we do not believe that legally those would qualify for domestic content. Even if Tesla just added their logo to the side of the battery, I don't think it would qualify. So it's got us wondering, is it 2170 from the Model 3 that's going in there? Is it some 1865s from S and X, because we know S and X haven't been like full,
right.
Or is it 4680, because where are the 4680s going?
Yeah.
They're doing 1,000 a week of those packs allegedly, and Cybertrucks at most are doing maybe 100 a week.
Right.
So it's where are those batteries going? Maybe they're going into Megapack. We're pretty surprised by this ruling or this legal opinion. So it'd be cool if Tesla could clarify that, but
yeah.
It's pretty nerdy, right?
It's nerdy, but hey, that's the nature of the beast in this in our community. We're all a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's look at the numbers real quick, Bradford. We've got Tesla closing out up 3%. That is well ahead of the Dow closing up 1%, less than 1%. NASDAQ 1.26, and the S&P up just almost exactly 1.03. So Tesla, it took off, everything took off. Actually, Tesla took off earlier and at a higher slope than anything else, including the Mag 7. It whipped all the Mag 7 as well.
And Russell 2000, the small caps are continuing to bounce back more after just getting shellacked through the whole rate increase.
So are you a rotation guy? You think we're going to see a rotation?
I think I think the small cap stuff will continue as like the Fed cools down. I don't know like how quickly it'll be, but the small caps got inordinately punished.
Yeah, they did. And the Kathy Woods did pretty well today too. You know, I have this special Kathy Woods group, right? So
Yeah.
a bunch of her stocks that are the risky growth stocks, and they did very well today as well, except for CRISPR. I don't know why CRISPR didn't do well, but anyway. So and then
CRISPR's had some good news.
they did, yeah.
So they got their sickle cell anemia treatment approved. I believe it was approved by the FDA.
Yeah.
So they're able to use, and I think it's with bone marrow. They're able to do the gene editing using bone marrow to straight up cure people from sickle cell anemia.
Wow. Holy mackerel. Well, that would
So
be,
that stock's probably done really well. I haven't sat and watched it, so I'm guessing, you know, where it zags on a given day is probably a result of that.
well, you know that if you ever watch my channel, and I know you do from time to time, you know that I never like to take credit for the things that I call,
Uh-huh.
right? But anyway, this morning, I specifically stated very loudly that I couldn't, I thought the 10 years the 10-year bonds had gone way too far, that it was too crazy where the 10 years were sitting, that was going to have to pull back, that the yields were going to have to go back up a little bit, and that the short terms, that it's completely beyond consider. Who knows why the 2-month and the 3-month and the 1 year were so beaten down when other bonds had started to relax. Anyway, so I guess I called it. First time I can remember that the long terms are all yields are all up and all of the short terms are down pretty radically. So maybe
If we go back to the CNN Fear Greed Index, it's saying the difference in the 20-day stock and bond returns, this safe haven demand, like it's you know, what you're talking about is it's showing that's, you know, there's this dichotomy that's there,
yeah.
that probably will get resolved over time.
Yeah, so this is not stock advice, but those short-term bonds have a long way to run. And the long-term bonds, I think they're done for a while. But you know, inflation could come down. It was the truflation has been pretty well straight down the last few days, actually for the last week. And so we
I
might.
saved an X post for you.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right.
So mortgage rates have fallen to a
Oh, yeah,
6-month low.
I know.
Unusual Whales posted that on X. So 6.67%.
I know. Is that
Starting to
crazy?
get somewhat reasonable again for mortgage rates.
Well,
Almost there.
well, for people as old as me, 6% was like normal. So
The deal.
6.67 just seems a little high, you know. But yeah, that's really so. Actually, I had thought we might talk about that for a minute, but the housing market is like 5% of the overall GDP of the country. And that doesn't count the finance side, which is another like 2.5 to 3%. And that doesn't count the durables and the aftermarket stuff that goes in when you buy a house. So, you know, you add it all up, it's probably 10% of the entire economy is residential home building. So I'm expecting to see a boom in residential home construction based on what's happening on these interest rates. What do you think?
I think it's gonna help thaw the freeze for sure. You know, certainly there's a lot of people sitting with 3% mortgage rates that are still gonna, you know, thumb their noses at, you know, moving and, you know, starting a new mortgage at 6.7%. But I think it's gonna help, and it's clear that what they say is the market is doing the work of the Fed.
Yeah,
You know, the Fed is leaning toward lowering rates, but the market's already lowering rates ahead of that.
right. Well, we have the lowest inventory of homes for sale in history by a lot. We actually
Yeah.
had the lowest inventory before the pandemic. That was just every year historically getting lower and lower. And then the pandemic hit, and there's, since then we've had no inventory. So I think just building some homes, I think that's what I'm really looking at. Not so much grandma moving out of her 3% mortgage. I'm talking about putting some new wood up. And so these young folks, the young folks, those under 55,
Yeah.
so that if they don't have a house yet, they might be able to buy one in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So
I know there's some anxiousness about immigration, but you're coming out of a supply chain issue with lumber. There's this whole thing between Canada and the US and lumber.
yeah,
Um, that's probably resolved itself, but there is probably a shortage of labor in the housing market.
there definitely will be.
And there are very few lazy immigrants. That's not those are two words that do not go together.
Yeah, yeah.
So um I I'm hopeful that this could resolve over time, but yeah, we have a lot of catching up to do to catch up with um the need for more homes in the US and some more affordable homes too.
Well, Bradford, I'm going to close it off there because it's time for me to get in my wife's Tesla Model Y, and we're going to shoot up to Vegas. So we'll be recording from there. I'm thinking about potentially still doing one more show today because after Kathy interviews Elon, probably I'll need to sit there on the hotel bed and take my best shot at putting out something about what that turns out to be. But as always, we're so thrilled to have you as a co-host on Thursday nights, Bradford. And we should tell everybody to go to rebellionaire.com and to follow you, on X as well. And other than that, any parting shots, parting words?
Happy holidays. If
There you go.
Christmas is on an odd day, it'd be nice if Christmas was on a Tuesday. That would be ideal. Get a 4-day weekend, but I don't remember Christmas being on a Monday in a long time. I think
Probably.
it's been a very long time.
Well, next
Maybe
year,
my memory's off, but
and next year it won't be on Tuesday either because it's leap year, so it's going to skip to Wednesday.
no.
All right, thanks.
See you soon.
Thank you. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.